Hi, I'm Scott at ediblemusic.com. When you're recording at home or in a small studio, you might be making your music with a microphone similar to this one, a directional cardioid microphone. And because of this kind of microphone and the room that you're recording in, you might be positioning it closer to the sound source so that you can capture a nice, clear, dry recording. However, that can also introduce what's called proximity effect. And there are a couple of really important things to know about proximity effect when you're recording. It can be a bit of a hazard when you're moving closer to the microphone. Proximity effect means that it will start to pick up more lower frequencies. And this is because the polar pattern of a cardioid microphone like this one that wants to accept sound from the front and reject sound from behind, will be more sensitive to lower frequencies because lower frequencies have a much longer length than higher frequencies do. And a cardioid polar pattern is more sensitive to the velocity of the sound waves that are hitting it. So as I get closer to this microphone, you'll hear the proximity effect in action where the lower frequencies of my voice are getting louder and louder and louder. And the problem that can happen is that those lower frequencies can start to mask the nice natural upper clarity frequencies of the recording that you're trying to capture. So you would have to then go into your workstation and EQ that out. Whereas if you were just to find a better position in relation to the microphone, then you could avoid that problem altogether. But it's a really important thing to pay attention to because I'll show you just in very small differences between the distance between my face and the microphone, will be a lot of different sounds that you can capture. And you might want one that is very close to the mic, very in your face. I realize this is probably super in your face right now. Or you might want to capture a more natural performance. That's usually the goal, is you want to capture as natural as possible a performance, and so proximity effect can get in the way of that. There are a few ways to avoid this hazard or to correct for it. One of them is, of course, as I said, to position yourself a little bit further away from the mic. You could also angle the mic a little bit. So if I were to move over here instead of being directly in front of the microphone, you'll also hear quite a difference between the quality of my voice. So it might be reducing the proximity effect, but the tone of my voice is changing a little bit also. So you do want to be careful of that. Another thing you can do is to use a pop filter. And a pop filter, when you have it in place, will prevent the performer from getting too close to the microphone, and you can adjust it as necessary. It's always worth doing a little bit of experimentation as you're getting set up. I think sometimes we want to be in such a hurry when we're recording because we want to get this song done and we want to get it out. We want to mix it and have it ready to go. But the recording stage is a really fun opportunity to explore some of the options that you have with you. So in addition to the hazard of proximity effect, the second thing to know about it is that it can be an opportunity. So if I have this pop filter set up, then I might want a little bit of proximity effect, and that can capture my voice in a certain way for a certain style of song that I would want it to. Or if I wanted to capture a bit of the room and I wanted to have that included within the recording capture of the vocal, then I could move the pop filter all the way out, and I would still be sort of restricted to this distance just because of the presence of the pop filter there. It's going to influence the way that I perform. Now, one thing to note is that because the pop filter is going to influence the way that you perform, I think it's really important to not focus on the pop filter itself. What can happen is if you're staring at the pop filter because you're nervous about bumping the microphone or getting too close to it, then you're sort of off balance. It's very similar to running or riding a bike, where when you're doing that, you're in motion, your attention is more out in the distance rather than in the immediate proximity of where you're going. And that helps you to maintain greater control. Similarly, you want to be able to have just a relaxed balance while you're performing into the microphone. And so allowing your attention to be beyond the pop filter, not focusing on the pop filter, but just letting it be there and having it be a part of the equipment that the performer is singing into. They can focus instead on the microphone, behind the pop filter, or even something a little bit further behind it. And that removes the awkwardness of having to focus on a pop filter. Those are two things to know then about proximity effect. One is that it can be a hazard. It can cause the microphone to capture the performance in a way that's not really natural and perhaps not in a way that you intended. But you can also make use of it a little bit creatively if you want to have that added proximity effect to embellish potentially a thinner or too bright of a sound of someone's voice that you're capturing. Then the proximity effect can help to bring out the body in the tone of their voice. There is not a lot of difference when you're moving back and forth. If I was on the other side of the room, my little movements wouldn't make that much of a difference. But the closer you get to the microphone, then those small movements can have some results that will be imprinted on the track that you've been recording. So it's important to use the proximity effect, but also to find the sweet spot within it. That's my challenge to you that I want you to try out. The next time that you're recording and set up to record, just allow yourself a session to explore around the microphone and hear how it sounds at different angles and different distances, and find and take note of the placements that work best for what you're trying to capture. Give it a shot.